Every once in a while, things just come together perfectly. So when I had the opportunity to join my wife and son for a motorcycle trip through Alaska and up to Tuktoyaktuk in the Arctic Ocean, I didn't hesitate. Stick around, share the adventure with us. It would take us 10 hours towing our bikes through Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, Saskatchewan, and finally we would leave our car and trailer with family in Cold Lake, Alberta.
Hey, Michael.
We had a great time staying with our family on their farm for a couple of days, but it was time to load up the bikes and hit the road. We would spend our first night at a nice campground in Wabamun Provincial Park. Our goal for the day would be Grande Cache, Alberta, as we made our way towards the start of the Alaska Highway. Today we would arrive in Dawson Creek, British Columbia, and the official start of the Alaska Highway. Today we had a long ride ahead of us to Fort Nelson, BC. After marking our territory and some obligatory selfies commemorating the start of the Alaska Highway, we loaded up and hit the road. Today we made our way through some of the most stunning scenery so far towards our camp for the night at Liard Hot Springs Provincial Park. we were surprised to come across this herd of bison. Unfortunately, the GoPro camera does not do this scene justice. These animals were huge. We finally arrived at Liard Hot Springs Provincial Park. This park is unique because it's completely enclosed with an 8-foot electric fence to protect campers and staff from the local bear population.
Do you guys have any camping available? Perfect. Thank you very much.
Leslie's cooking. Is it cooked? We'll find out soon enough. This keeps the bears out. You probably shouldn't pee on it. Grab the wire.
So if a bear takes you,
I'm hungry. After a great night at camp, we stopped in at Coal River for some lunch and then crossed into the Yukon, arriving at Watson Lake and the famous Signpost Forest, camping for the night at Watson Lake Provincial Park. We woke to a chilly morning, but our heated gear made the ride comfortable on our way to our stop for the night at the Yukon Motorcycle Park in Whitehorse.
Feet up on the dash and a calling open road.
We spent an extra day dodging raindrops at the Yukon Motorcycle Park and enjoying a little break. The next day, we rode through Whitehorse towards our destination campground just before the USA border.
Now we can go anywhere you wanna go. Ooh, there's no place we can go. Ooh, my home is when I'm alone with you. Sunlight fades away and you fall into my arms. This life is not the same when we're apart. If you follow me tonight, I'll walk with you for life. And we can go anywhere you wanna go.
Around midday, we stopped at the Thakal Doll Visitor Center to see some doll sheep and exhibits. From there, the road after Destruction Bay lived up to its name and was in very poor condition.
There's no place we can go. Ooh, my home is when I'm alone with you. With
We started the day with some light rain as we made our way towards the USA border and our final destination for the day, Delta Junction, Alaska.
You're in Canada and the United States. Treaty 1925.
We stopped for a light lunch in Tok and checked out their visitor center. Finally, we arrived at Clearwater Campground in Delta Junction. This far north, we only had about 3 hours of darkness, so we were glad we brought some blindfolds with us. We packed up camp and stopped in at a local restaurant for breakfast to celebrate completing the Alaska Highway, and then made our way towards Fairbanks on the Richardson Highway. As we rode along the highway near Eilson Air Force Base, we were treated to flyovers by some fighter jets. As we entered the town of North Pole, Alaska, we decided that we couldn't just pass through without saying hello to Santa Claus. When we arrived in Fairbanks, we stopped in at the Morris Thompson Cultural and Visitors Center and then made our way to the River's Edge Resort for the night. It was a rainy morning when we woke up in our nice little River's Edge Resort cabin. Today we were headed to Chena Hot Springs, which we would be happy to soak in after this wet, chilly ride. We arrived at Chena Hot Springs with some time to explore the grounds and soak in the hot springs before a powerful thunderstorm moved in on us. We decided to get a hotel room for the night instead of riding through it. At $600 a night Canadian with no air conditioning, we were still happy to be dry. We left the hot springs with some light rain, which cleared up by the time we went through Fairbanks on our way to Denali National Park. Michael decided he would be the first one on this trip to drop his bike. He wouldn't be the last. We pulled into Denali and claimed a campsite and then checked out the visitor center.
I didn't realize I could work like that.
We ended up with a great campsite right next to the river. Leslie ended up getting a little bit wet.
Michael, what happened?
Someone slipped.
The next day, we started off by going on a nice, easy hike and enjoyed some beautiful scenery. We made it just in time for the sled dog demonstration that day. These were some well-trained and beautiful dogs that have a long history in the park. The following day, Leslie thought it would be a great idea to go for a longer, more aggressive hike for our last day in Denali. We opted for the direction that would be a more gradual ascent and then a steeper descent to the finish. The views were absolutely stunning. Only about 30% of visitors to Denali National Park actually get to see the entire Mount Denali Peak. The mountain is often obscured by clouds due to its height. We were not lucky enough to be in the 30% club. When we completed the hike, we were surprised to find that the trail we were on was closed, and there were a bunch of tourists with telephoto lenses. It turns out that there was a big grizzly bear on the hill not far from where we were just hiking. After a nice breakfast, we were anxious to tackle the first extended dirt section of the trip, the Denali Highway. The forecast called for some rain, so we were a bit nervous if a lot of rain would make the road surface a muddy mess, or just enough rain to keep the dust down. We did get some rain, but the road managed to stay in pretty good shape as we passed snowbanks and saw our first glaciers. We stopped in at a restaurant for a break just in time for a heavy downpour, where we met some other motorcycle travelers. Afterwards, we rode the remaining short distance to Tangle Lakes Campground while the skies brightened up a bit and we enjoyed a great camp dinner with a rainbow view over the lake. We had been told that the ride to Valdez would be some of the most beautiful scenery of our trip, and it did not disappoint. It was a great ride under beautiful blue skies. As we approached the seaside town of Valdez, the views were outstanding.
I love to love you so, let all my feelings go. I love to run my hand across your hand.
We checked in at our hotel, did some laundry, and stopped in at the Fat Mermaid for the best halibut we've ever had. We topped off the evening with a walk along the waterfront and a quiet night in a real bed. Today we would be making our way to McCarthy, which would include a long stretch of dirt in poor condition. As we left Valdez, Leslie suggested that we stop in at the Solomon Gulch fish hatchery. We were advised to watch for bears in the area, and I could see why. The hatchery was pretty cool with lots of information. After we passed through Chitina, the seasonal McCarthy Road became a rough gravel road. The sun was intense, and with the heat and dust, we needed lots of water to avoid becoming dehydrated. Arrived at Base Camp Kennecott, which would be our camp for the night. "Stay out of the lower camp area," said the owner. "If the glacier carves out a chunk, that area would be flooded." So we found a nice spot on slightly higher ground with an amazing view of the Root Glacier and the Kennecott River, where we would spend a few nights listening to the creaks and moans of the glacier. With clear skies, we headed over the McCarthy Bridge into the town of McCarthy for lunch and a visit to the Kennecott Mines National Historic Landmark for the afternoon. The McCarthy Bridge is a long footbridge wide enough for people and motorcycles. It was nice to bring the bikes over so that we could make this ride to the Kennecott Mines without needing a shuttle. We had a nice lunch at the Potato Restaurant and then made our way towards the Kennecott Mines. Kennecott Mines National Historic Landmark. Well, maybe this is it. We had a great afternoon taking a walk back in time through this abandoned copper mine. From 1911 to 1938, $200 million worth of copper was processed, with about 300 people working in the mill town and another 200 to 300 people working in the mines. The buildings are slowly being restored, and there was lots of historical information posted throughout the area. After an exhausting day walking in the sun, we headed back to camp for a nice glass of wine and camp dinner. Overnight, a strong storm blew through camp, dusting our tents with the wind and heavy downpour. Michael didn't set up his guy lines on his tent, so he was blown around a lot. It continued to rain in the morning, so we used the tarp to create a makeshift shelter for breakfast. Later on, we headed back into McCarthy, this time on foot, for some lunch and some ice cream at the general store. When we got back, we hung out under the tarp until the skies began to clear. Then it was time for glacier hunting. The Root Glacier in Wrangell St. Elias National Park is estimated to be 200 million years old, with ice that's 300 to 500 feet thick. We carved off some pieces from an iceberg to try. It has a slight mineral taste to it, but it's a pretty cool experience. After spending a few days in McCarthy, it was time to make our way west. With our off-road confidence growing, we blasted through the McCarthy Road and back onto pavement. We took the turn at Glen Allen and headed west to Palmer through the Talkeetna Mountains. There was some fantastic twisty roads and beautiful scenery to enjoy along this route. The bikes were starting to get pretty muddy, so we found a car wash to freshen up. After a nice breakfast and some grocery shopping, we hit the road towards Anchorage, and then south through some beautiful scenery towards the iconic Homer Spit. I really enjoyed the ride along Highway 1, along Turnagain Arm, and to the gentleman who chatted with us at Canyon Creek Rest Area and pulled ice-cold Gatorade out of his cooler for us, thank you. We are forever in your debt. We stopped in at our hotel in the town of Homer and left our gear in the room, and then made our way to the famous Homer Spit for dinner. After a nice stroll visiting some shops, we had dinner at Captain Patty's Fish House. A beautiful sunset ride brought us back to our hotel for the night. Today we would make our way around the beautiful Kenai Peninsula to the town of Seward to spend a couple of days exploring this popular cruise ship port. We secured one of the few remaining hotel rooms, which was nice since we were expecting rain over the next couple of days. After a good night's sleep and quick breakfast, we explored the visitor center, which had some great exhibits. We then found our way to a ticket office for a glacier viewing dinner excursion. Since we had the time, we decided it would be nice to get out on the water, so we booked our tickets. We boarded the ship and slowly made our way out into the ocean. Once out to sea, we were immediately treated to some humpback whales bubble net feeding. We weren't expecting this and enjoyed watching these massive animals working together to feed. had dinner and finally arrived at the Alec Glacier, where the staff fished out some glacier chunks for their after-dinner drinks. The excursion overall was fantastic, a little stomach churning at times due to some rougher seas in areas, but well worth the trip. With a foggy start to the day, we made our way back to the Talkeetna Mountains with a stop in Whittier along the way. We arrived in Whittier excited for a unique experience. Whittier can only be accessed by water, which is also a cruise ship port, and by land via the 2.5-mile long Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel, which is a combination highway and train tunnel. The direction of travel is controlled by 2 computer-based tunnel control systems. As a motorcyclist, just remember to keep it between the rails. During World War II, the U.S. Army constructed a military facility in Whittier, which became the entrance for U.S. soldiers into Alaska. The population of Whittier is 272 people, with most of its residents living in a condominium tower building, giving this town the nickname of a town under one roof. We still had lots of beautiful scenery to ride back to our campground for the night in the Talkeetna Mountains, so we took another ride through the Whittier Tunnel and made our way past Anchorage and Palmer to King Mountain State Recreation Area.
Open spot right here. Michael, what is it you're doing?
The monster's out.
Today we would make our way to a less visited part of Alaska, known as the town of Chicken.
Heading up the west coast in the morning, find a place where no one knows our faces or our names.
We again enjoyed the twisty mountain roads and stopped for fuel and lunch in the town of Glen Allen, and continued along Highway 1 to Tok, where we would take the Taylor Road, Highway 5, north to Chicken.
So come away with me, let's break free.
This seasonal 80-mile gravel and asphalt over permafrost road is in poor condition. Strewn with deep potholes and other hazards, it takes all of your attention.
Wake up to the sounds of no one around.
We finally arrived in Chicken, which tomorrow will be the start of the top of the world highway for us. We secured a campsite and made our way to the Chicken Creek Saloon and Mercantile.
Let's just drive.
The saloon was straight out of the movies.
Oh, come away
with its ceiling adorned with men's caps and ladies' panties. The barkeep was quick to point out that these purple panties belonged to Norley Schumacher of Itchy Boots fame. We were late for dinner service, but the barkeep did manage to find us some delicious chili and a cold beer. Just what we needed. Today, we would ride the iconic top-of-the-world highway. There was a chance of rain in the forecast, but with our recent dirt experience on the Denali Highway and McCarthy Road, we were confident that we could handle whatever it threw at us. Along the ridge were incredible. We did get some rain, but overall the road was in pretty good shape. Before we knew it, we were back in Canada and the Yukon Territory. Finally came to the end of the top-of-the-world highway and waited for the ferry to take us across the Yukon River into Dawson City. The river had a very strong current. We didn't expect the ferry to impact land quite as hard as it did, which robbed Leslie of her footing, crashing her bike into mine, creating a domino effect, which ended with me on the ground. Michael, who had already christened his bike in Denali, not to mention his longer legs, managed just fine.
That was a little more side action than we expected on that.
With Leslie's windscreen broken off, we limped into town to deal with the first order of business. Lunch at River West Bistro. Our tummies now full, we found a room at the Bunkhouse Hotel where I repaired the minimal damage to Leslie's bike.
Hey Steve, what you doing?
Fixing the bike.
Today was a big day. It was time to tackle the notorious Dempster Highway. We've heard a lot of bad stuff about this road. Recent deaths, broken bikes and bodies. We were hoping to avoid rain on the Dempster, but sure enough, not long after we hit the road, it started pouring. They apply calcium chloride to keep the dust down on the road, but when it gets wet, it's a skating rink. Leslie was a top figure skater in her day, but that won't help her here. We took it easy, but there was still some pucker moments for sure. We stopped in at the Tombstone Territorial Park Interpretive Center to warm up and relax some tensed muscles with some tea they had warming on the wood stove. We then headed a bit further up the road to the Tombstone campground to camp for the night. I'm glad now that I sprayed the bikes head to toe in ACF 50, which is a thin oil that will help reduce the corrosion from the calcium chloride.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The campground had a nice pavilion with covered windows and a potbelly stove to keep us nice and warm while we socialized with other campers. The next day, we made our way to Eagle Plains with better weather. It was pretty chilly, but the views were fantastic, and the road was just damp enough to keep the dust down, but not too slippery. There were lots of potholes and jagged shale rock, though, so we were very careful. We stopped at Engineer Creek Campground for lunch, and were happy that they had a pavilion like Tombstone, and were even more thrilled that the woodstone was still burning to warm up our cold hands. We thought we were pretty badass for tackling the Dempster, but when we passed some bicyclists on their way back, I was humbled. I have so much respect for these people. Our feet and fingers were pretty cold when we arrived at Eagle Plains, which is at over 2,300 feet in elevation. Since we were still dirty from the day before, we got one of the last available hotel rooms and had a nice hot shower. The next morning, shortly after leaving Eagle Plains, we crossed into the Arctic Circle. It was a pretty good feeling to have accomplished this, as we met so many that didn't make it this far. The next test for us would be Hurricane Alley, which is located between kilometer 450 and 465. It certainly lived up to its name. The winds were so strong when we got to the Northwest Territories border, we didn't stop for a group photo because if we stopped, we felt that we would be blown over. We carried on through some amazing scenery towards our first ferry over the Peel River just before Fort McPherson. We managed to make it across on this ferry without incident and stopped in Fort McPherson for some gas and snacks. Gas and groceries are crazy expensive up here. We then crossed the Mackenzie River under beautiful blue skies. There we go. We finished off the gravel, and just before Inuvik, we finally hit asphalt once again. We stopped in at Jack Campground, where we would stay for a couple of nights for a bit of a break and waiting out weather before the last 150 kilometers to Tuktoyaktuk.
Hello. Good, how are you? You have some open site?
Today was a rest day, so we headed into the town of Inuvik to explore. Inuvik has a population of 3,100 people and is a fairly big town by northern standards. We stopped in at the Western Arctic Regional Visitors Center and checked out the many exhibits. We were proud to receive our certificate of the Arctic Circle Chapter Order of Adventurers.
Hello.
Since the permafrost makes burying pipes impractical, Inuvik uses an above-ground utilidor system for its water and sewer lines. After a nice lunch, we headed back to camp to prepare for our ride to Tuk the next day. Today we would ride the 300 kilometers round trip to Tuktoyaktuk. We left some of our luggage at the campground in town and hit the road. At first, it was your average dirt road, but quickly the gravel became much looser and deeper, especially in the corners where trucks would push it into a pile. We found ourselves standing most of the ride and quickly learned that going slow would not work with this deep gravel. When things get sketchy, go faster. A bit counterintuitive, but it worked. After we passed the landfill near the edge of town, we finally had the Tuktoyaktuk sign in our sights. After a photo at the sticker-covered sign, we continued on through town, imagining what life would be like here in the winter. We eventually made it to the Arctic Ocean sign. What a feeling of accomplishment for our family of riders. After all of the warnings of how dangerous it was and that we shouldn't attempt it, we finally made it to the end of the road. We made our way to Grandma's kitchen for some lunch. Unfortunately, Grandma was ill and would not be cooking today. However, her husband John very generously invited us into their beach house so that we could cook and eat the freeze-dried meals that we had brought with us, and he made us a pot of hot coffee. What a beautiful view they have. Now that our bellies were full, we headed back to the end of the road to dip our toes into the Arctic Ocean. The stones were hard on our bare feet and the water was painfully cold, but we were thrilled to have made it here to this moment. We filled up our fuel tanks for the 150-kilometer ride back to Inuvik, where we had earned a restful night in a hotel. We were careful not to crash in the very loose, freshly graded gravel. Everyone made it through without incident. The only casualty was Michael's license plate frame and plate, which somehow tore off and lost due to some of the rough sections. After a quick selfie at the Inuvik sign, we headed back towards Eagle Plains for the night. We crossed both rivers with a lunch break at Fort McPherson before crossing our fingers and heading into Hurricane Alley at the Yukon border. My hopes for a calmer wind were dashed when I found myself hanging off the side of the bike to counterbalance the strong wind. We stopped at a roadworks building to have a break and find some protection from the wind, but it still blew us around. We questioned if we should wait it out, but in the end decided to go for it and slowly made our way back into the Yukon and on to Eagle Plains. After a big breakfast in Eagle Plains, we watched as the local ravens raided someone's truck with an open door, stealing their junk food. We also noticed they'd been busy on the bikes as well, shredding Michael's blue tent bag. We filled our fuel tanks and headed towards Dawson City for the night. The weather was warm and sunny, which however made for dustier conditions than on our way in. The semi-trucks and some RVs created so much dust you could barely see where you were going. We stopped at Ogilvie Ridge to rest and admire the beautiful scenery and to chat with some RV travelers we had met at Eagle Plains. As we crossed the Klondike River Bridge, a wave of emotion came over me. We made it. For us, this was a great accomplishment that few people would have the chance to experience. Nobody crashed or got hurt. The bikes were still in one piece. After refilling our tanks, we headed back to Dawson City. We again stayed at the Bunkhouse Hotel, and after a well-deserved shower and change of clothes, we headed out to dinner to celebrate at the Sourdough Saloon and also to partake in the world-famous Sourdough cocktail ceremony. The Sourdough cocktail is a shot of Yukon Jack whiskey and a dehydrated, mummified human toe. The toe has to touch your lips.
Gotta touch. There it is. There we go. Fist bump. How was it? This is your certificate.
That is.
Standing proud with our certificates, we made our way to Diamond Tooth Gertie's gambling hall. We enjoyed a bit of gambling, some drinks, and of course, the famous showgirls. We planned on staying 2 nights in Dawson City, but we also wanted to do the White Pass train excursion in Skagway, and the only day we could still get tickets meant we had to leave right away to get there in time. So we loaded up and and hit the road under clear blue skies for a fantastic ride. Our destination for the night would again be the Yukon Motorcycle Camp in Whitehorse. This would turn out to be a really nice day of riding. We took a break at a free campground and continued enjoying the amazing weather and scenery. Today we were headed towards Skagway, Alaska. We had another amazing day of clear blue skies and warm temperatures ahead of us.
No, I don't need a mansion in Montana. Don't want a penthouse in Perry. No gables in eaves, 4,000 square feet just to fill up things I don't need.
Just before the Alaska border, on Route 2, we came across the scene of a rock slide that blocked both lanes of the highway, was estimated to be up to 150 meters wide and 20 meters high. They had it mostly cleared now, and we were hoping that there would be no slides when we were going by.
On we go, down the endless road. How can we know?
The scenery heading towards Skagway was absolutely stunning.
I know this life gets so heavy, so I'll carry it with you.
We again crossed the US border into Alaska and made our way towards Skagway.
Wherever we roam. No, I don't need a castle in Columbus.
We arrived around noon in Skagway, and after checking into our hotel room and freshening up a bit, we had some lunch at the Skagway Brewing Company.
Always be new. Each morning when I wake up with you. Someday we'll have our own acre or two. We'll have a garden and a shed for your tools. But for now there's no rush, 'cause we still got so much left to see.
After exploring the town a bit, we picked up our tickets for the White Pass Scenic Railway Tour and boarded the train. This was a pretty cool experience. Michael and I spent much of the ride standing at the outside head of the train car. The tunnels were so close to the train that we thought we would hit the rocks. The trains were in regular use on this route from 1900 till 1982. They were initially built to serve the Klondike Gold Rush. It became a vital transportation route to the Yukon interior. The railway was later revived as a tourist attraction in 1988. Definitely a thumbs up from us on this attraction. Today, after a nice breakfast, we would leave Skagway, crossing back into Canada and heading towards Teslin Lake in the Yukon. Stopped in Carcross to check out a touristy area of town and have some lunch at the bistro. Michael picked up some specialty maple syrup from Maple Rush, Yukon. It was delicious. Checked out the world's smallest desert and continued on towards Teslin Lake. After finding a nice campsite at the Teslin Lake Government Campground, we set up camp, had some dinner, and enjoyed the beach and calm waters at Teslin Lake. Today we would ride the Stewart-Cassiar Highway with a planned camp at Dease Lake, BC for the night. When heading north, you have two options, the AlCan, or Alaska Highway, or the Cassier. We're happy that even though there were a large number of forest fires this year, we were able to ride both routes. There was some beautiful scenery along the Cassier and also some evidence of recent fires. The weather was perfect with blue skies and warm temperatures. We stopped in at Jade City for a break to check out the incredible art created here. We also enjoyed the free coffee they offer to travelers. We finally made it to Dease Lake where we camped for the night. Today we were riding the Cassier Highway to Stewart, British Columbia. It was a great ride through some beautiful scenery once again. There were some gravel sections along the way, but the roads were in pretty good shape. enjoyed a nice break at a roadside stop/runway, watching a plane land while we relaxed and cleaned our visors of the giant bug splatter. We stopped in at the Belle Two Lodge for a coffee break and to stretch our legs. As we got closer to Seward, it began to rain, and the scenery became even more amazing. With glaciers and waterfalls and fast-moving rivers, we were very much enjoying the ride, even in the rain. We arrived in Stewart and checked into the King Edward Hotel. After some hot showers, we found the rain had pretty much stopped, so we explored the town and had dinner at the El Tostador restaurant and some delicious Mexican cuisine. Today we would dip across the border to Hyder, Alaska to visit the Salmon Glacier before making our way to Smithers, BC for the night. There is no U.S. Customs at this location, so we rode right into Hyder. As we passed through town, I had a black bear cross the road in front of me. Minutes later, we came to the Fish Creek Wildlife Observation Site in the Tongass National Forest. This viewing area is inside a gated boardwalk area, and walking outside the protected area is not recommended due to the high number of bears in the area. After parking the bikes and stashing our food in the park office, we walked the boardwalk and were immediately treated to a hungry bear fishing for salmon. It was amazing to be so close to such an incredible animal.
You gotta go, you gotta go.
What an experience that was. We continued on towards the Salmon Glacier as the road turned to gravel and became rougher with rock debris, potholes, and washboard. The ride was worthwhile as the views were incredible. We stopped at the viewing area for some photos with the Salmon Glacier. The road did continue past the viewing area, so we figured we'd take it as far as we could. The road became even more difficult as we passed steep cliffs and even some old mines. We eventually made it to the Salmon Glacier mining camp, where they were helicoptering in supplies. Leslie had a minor tip over due to the rough, rocky turnaround, but we were quickly back on the narrow road towards Stewart. This rocky, dusty, winding road may just be more difficult than the Dempster. Eventually we made it back to Stewart, and a cold beer and nice lunch. Our ride out of Stewart this time was under beautiful blue skies, which made the scenery so much different from the rainy day before. It felt like an entirely new route. We made it to Smithers and a motel for the night. Today we would be heading to a campground near Prince George, British Columbia. Since our Smithers motel room had a kitchen, Leslie cooked a great breakfast while I did some bike maintenance. We stopped at a roadside park for a break and made our way past logging trucks and operations, while the scenery changed from mountains to rolling hills and farmland. We stopped in the Vanderhoof Cultural Centre and walked through a museum of the Royal Bank of Canada from the early 1900s and a beautiful 12-meter wooden carving in the Cultural Centre. Today we would make our way to Clearwater, British Columbia, since our original plan of going through Jasper and down the Icefields Parkway was forced to change due to the wildfires in Jasper. We would have to go around the south route via Kamloops and ride north and back south again on the Icefields Parkway. I was feeling a bit sore after a tip over the night before parking my bike at camp and injuring my right shoulder, but it was manageable. We made our way south on Route 5 to Clearwater and enjoyed a delicious barbecue dinner at the Hop and Hog Tap and Smokehouse. Today we would ride to Revelstoke, British Columbia, but first we would stop in at Wellsgrey Provincial Park to see Helmkid Falls.
There when the sun goes down, we could walk this autumn town, find a place to be alone, look into your eyes, feeling butterflies. We could dance under the stars.
We came to this park by car many years ago, and the kids were much younger then. We managed to replicate an old photo we took way back in 2008.
To be just you and me. We can lose this love, so hold on to what we know we have. Hold on to moments that we've shared.
We rode through some beautiful scenery as we passed through Kamloops and stopped for lunch.
Everything will be fine. Just hold on. Then the night turned into day.
The ride through the Shuswap and Salmon Arm became more and more beautiful as we made our way to Revelstoke and our hotel for the night.
Memories for our house to hold, we'll carry too.
Today we would make our way to Banff, Alberta, but not without first riding one of the most iconic roads in the world, the Icefields Parkway. The ride through the Rockies was, as always, fantastic, but there was a bit more traffic on Highway 1 than we've been used to in the north. But with the amazing views, it made up for it in spades. After a quick stop in Lake Louise for some fuel, we turned off the highway and paid our entrance fee, and were thrilled to begin this epic ride.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
The year-round Icefield's Parkway is a 232-kilometer highway stretching from Jasper in the north to Lake Louise in the south. Unfortunately, due to the fires in Jasper, the road was closed at the Jasper-Columbia Icefields Discovery Center, so we would have to double back. That's okay though, I didn't mind riding it twice. The Discovery Center was extremely busy, so many tourists. Like I said, we're not used to this. It was so quiet and peaceful in the north. We opted not to do the touristy stuff like walk on the glacier, do the skywalk, and things like that. We were happy with just going for another spectacular ride down the Icefields Parkway back to Lake Louise. Checked the Icefields Parkway off of our bucket list and made our way into Banff just as a bad-looking storm began approaching. We checked into our hotel for the night and made our way on foot to the old spaghetti factory for dinner. Today we had a short ride to stay with a friend of ours in Calgary, so we took the opportunity to sleep in a bit and walk around Banff exploring the town and trails. We checked out some shops in town and hiked up to the Cascade of Time Garden, and then hiked the trail alongside the Bow River in a light rain. After a quick lunch, we loaded up the bikes and hit the Trans-Canada Highway for our ride to Calgary. After we passed Canmore, the landscape flattened out, and before we knew it, we were in Calgary, happy to see our friend Sabine, who also rode a Honda NC750. We stayed with her for a couple of nights. We were excited to try the downhill karting, which is a gravity ride on a 1.8 kilometer track. It was a lot of fun. It was time to leave Calgary and head back to Cold Lake. After a nice farewell breakfast, we hit the highways. Waved goodbye to Sabine and pointed the bikes towards Edmonton. After a quick A&W lunch just past Edmonton, we made our way through the countryside back to my cousin Syl's place in Cold Lake. to the driveway after 14,000 kilometers of riding, and all that we had accomplished was extremely satisfying. We were pretty exhausted, but loved every minute. Apparently, Buttercup had a baby named Whiskey while we were away. After a rest day on the farm, we loaded the bikes up into the trailer and headed home. It felt weird to drive in a car again after so much time outside in the elements on a motorcycle.
How do you like the road?
Love it. On the way home, I had time to reflect about what we had accomplished together as a family. We finally arrived at home and began the painstaking work of cleaning the Dempster off of our bikes.
Smile, Mike.
This stuff gets absolutely everywhere. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.